In this tutorial, we will be demonstrating how to utilize the disk performance dashboard within your virtual desktop environment using the VDI ToolKit. This dashboard allows you to see overall disk performance metrics across your virtual desktop environment. So what information does the disk dashboard provide? Well, it provides daily average disk metrics, average disk breakdown by hour metrics, day, week, month, and quarter average disk metrics, highest 5 average disk metrics, and lowest 5 disk metrics. So before we go over those, let's go over a few definitions. Idle time percent reports the percentage of time during the sample interval that the disk was idle. Average disk seconds per read is the average time in seconds of a read of data from the disk. The average disk seconds per write is the average time in seconds of a write of data to the disk. And lastly, the current disk queue length is the number of requests outstanding on the disk at the time the performance data is collected. It also includes requests in service at the time of collection. This is an instantaneous snapshot and not an average over the time interval. Multiple spindle disk devices can have multiple requests that are active at one time, but other concurrent requests are awaiting service. The counter might reflect a transitory high or low queue length, but if there is a sustained load on the disk drive, it is likely that this will constantly be high. Requests experience delay proportional to the length of the queue minus the number of spindles on the disk. For good performance, this difference should average less than 2. All right, so let's talk about the daily average disk metrics and what they provide information on. So they provide information on the daily average idle time, daily average queue length, daily average seconds per read, and daily average seconds per write. This allows you to get an overall view of performance within your virtual desktop environment so you can identify possible system-wide issues. For example, maybe the storage can no longer handle the growth of the virtual desktop environment. Disk breakdown by hour metrics provide information on hourly average idle time, hourly average queue length, hourly average seconds per read, and hourly average seconds per write. This provides information to allow you to see performance variance across the hours of the day. For example, maybe you are seeing degraded performance between certain hours of the day. This could help you identify if issues are coming around scheduled tasks such as backups. Day, week, month, and quarter disk metrics provide information on average idle time, average seconds per read, average seconds per write, and average queue length over the specified time frame. Highest 5 average disk metrics provide information on average idle time by user, average seconds per read by user, average seconds per write by user, and average queue length by user. This can help in identifying users within your virtual desktop environment that are the highest consumers of disk resources within your virtual desktop environment. Lowest 5 average disk metrics provide information on average idle time by user, average seconds per read by user, average seconds per write by user, and average queue length by user. This can help identifying users within your environment that are the lowest consumers of disk resources within your virtual desktop environment to help aid in a cross comparison of those using the most resources. So let's talk about why our charts are ugly, and that's a strong term, and they really aren't ugly, and we take pride in them. So let me elaborate on what we mean by that. First, we believe that data should be represented as it presents itself and should be unadulterated. So what does that mean exactly? Well, it means we use no smoothing algorithms on our charts as rolling moving averages, such as rolling moving averages, etc. Many other companies, when providing charts, are so worried about making them pretty, they modify the data with smoothing algorithms. You are in essence not seeing the true representation of the data when such algorithms are used. This can lead to thinking there isn't a problem when there actually is one. We choose to focus on a true representation of data versus a pretty representation of data. We believe this will equip you with better tools to make better decisions within your virtual desktop environment. Up next, we will demonstrate utilizing the disk performance dashboard using the VDI ToolKit. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So to do that, we'll go ahead and open up the management console, and I have that running on a virtual desktop here. So I'll go ahead and open up the management console. Once that's open, let's go ahead and expand it. And then we'll need to navigate to Dashboards, Performance. And once we do that, I'll open up the CPU dashboard, and then we'll navigate to the lower right corner here to navigate to the disk. So we'll go ahead and click on disk, and this is the disk performance dashboard. So let's go ahead and go over it. So the first thing I want to go over is the daily metrics. And as we can see here, we have our daily metrics, and it gives us the information on idle time, queue length, seconds per write and seconds per read. And that's all averages based on each day over the whole environment. And this can help you narrow down if there's issues or something's changed recently. Maybe you've deployed a new application and it's heavy in disk resources. You might see these things creep up. Just to go over too with the chart as well, you can always take and left click and then drag and highlight an area and let go. And what that does is it lets you drill down into a more detailed area. And if you double click on the graph, it'll go back to the 365-day view. We can also take and expand this ellipsis just by highlighting our mouse over it. We can also show grid lines, or we can actually show the legend and deselect items so they no longer show in the graph. I'll go ahead and add those back and disable showing the legend. Next one I want to talk about is the disk breakdown by hour. So the disk breakdown by hour gives you averages over the last 365 days based off of hour of day. So we can go ahead and highlight over these, and we can see we have the average idle time, the average seconds per write, the average seconds per read, and the average queue length. Now, please note that the data we're using here is elevated and high, and we're not, it's just dummy data to demonstrate this. Now, as we can see with this chart, though, we have a lot of peaks based between two time frames, between 7 and 10 and 8 and 9. So maybe, that helps you identify, one, when people are using the most of their resources. So maybe you're seeing that when everybody's logging in the morning, or when they're logging out in the evening, especially if you have a non-persistent pool that's set to delete on log off, because those delete operations are going to create a lot of disk I/O on your storage and could be slowing down other users. The other thing too is maybe this is shared storage and there's other things on this storage and you're running backups at a particular time, and that's increasing disk I/O as well and slowing everybody else down. Next one I want to talk about is the day, week, month, and quarter metrics up here at the top, and that's these four. And that's, once again, average idle time, average seconds per read, average seconds per write, and average queue length. And these will update and change as you change the interval, as you can notice those change just now. So you can switch and kind of get an idea of where things have been between there on the last day, last week, last month, and last quarter. When you change these metrics as well to the time intervals here from day, week, month, and quarter, it also updates the items here in the highest 5 and lowest 5. So the highest 5 here, just to go over it, is the average idle time by user, average seconds per read by user, average seconds per write by user, and average queue length by user. And we can actually, this will help us kind of drill down and see what users are actually consuming the most resources. And, you can use that as a cross comparison with the lowest 5 and try to see what's different between certain users that are using more resources within your environment. Maybe you're only seeing it within a certain department and they use a certain application, and that application is more disk I/O intensive or whatnot. The other thing is to switch to the lowest 5. We just come up here and click, and then that'll switch to the lowest 5, and we can see those items, which it's all the same metrics. It's just the lowest to provide a cross comparison. That way you can see who's using the least resources in your environment. Lastly, just so you know, you can always print these dashboards as well. You can come up here and click print, and then it'll give you the option to go ahead and print. That pretty much sums it up, and I hope you found this tutorial useful, and thank you.